The war had been raging for 300 years when Sarah Chun received a message that would change the course of galactic history. She sat in her modest office on Terra Station, overlooking the bustling trade routes that connected dozens of star systems, when a hologram flickered to life above her desk. Ambassador Chun, the blue-skinned Kaluri diplomat, began, his four eyes blinking in sequence. The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision. We need you to end the Vorthan-Kalari conflict. Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. The Vorthan-Kalari War wasn't just any conflict. It was the bloodiest, most expensive military engagement in recorded galactic history. Two massive civilizations had been throwing everything they had at each other for centuries, turning entire star systems into graveyards and consuming resources that could have built 1,000 worlds. With respect, Counselor Zektar, Sarah said, setting down her cup, I'm just a trade negotiator. I help settle shipping disputes and tariff disagreements. I'm not qualified to broker peace between two empires that have been trying to exterminate each other since before humans left their solar system. The Kalari's largest, I focused intently on her. That is precisely why you are perfect for this assignment. Every military strategist, every seasoned diplomat, every peace negotiator in the galaxy has tried and failed. The Vorthans and Kalari have built their entire societies around this conflict. Their economies, their politics, their very identities are wrapped up in mutual destruction. Sarah leaned back in her chair, processing the magnitude of what was being asked. She had built her reputation over 15 years of resolving commercial disputes by finding creative solutions that benefited all parties. But this was different. This was about ending a war that had claimed billions of lives and devastated hundreds of worlds. What makes the Council think I can succeed where others have failed? She asked. Zektar's expression shifted to what humans had learned to recognize as a Kalari smile. Because you think like a human. You see profit where others see only loss. You find opportunity where others see only obstacles. And, most importantly, you understand that the most valuable resource in the universe isn't territory or technology. It's time. The message ended with coordinates for a neutral meeting station in the DMZ between Vorthan and Kalari space. Sarah stared at the flickering hologram long after it disappeared, weighing the impossible task ahead of her. 3 days later, she found herself aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge, approaching the meeting station through a debris field that told the story of countless battles. Twisted metal from both Vorthan and Kalari ships drifted past the viewports like technological ghosts, silent witnesses to centuries of feudal conflict. The station itself was a marvel of neutral engineering, built by the Galactic Council specifically for peace negotiations. Its design incorporated elements from dozens of different species, creating something that belonged to everyone and no one. Sarah's human eyes picked out the familiar curves of Earth architecture alongside the geometric patterns favored by the Kalari and the organic flowing lines that characterized Vorthan construction. As her ship docked, Sarah reviewed everything she knew about the two warring species. The Vorthans were silicon-based life forms who valued honor, tradition, and what they called the eternal struggle. They were master engineers who could build ships capable of cracking planets, but their rigid social structure made them predictable in both war and peace. The Kalari, by contrast, were carbon-based like humans, but with a decentralized society that prized individual achievement and technological innovation. They were brilliant tacticians who had turned warfare into an art form. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah that two species with such complementary strengths had spent 3 centuries trying to destroy each other instead of building something together. The first meeting was held in the station's main conference room, a circular chamber with perfect acoustics and translation systems that could handle the complex harmonics of Vorthan communication alongside the rapid-fire clicking of Kalari speech. Sarah arrived early and took her seat at the human design negotiation table, watching as the two delegations entered from opposite sides of the room. The Vorthan delegation was led by War Commander Thek Sol, a massive crystalline being whose body showed the scars of countless battles. His 3-meter frame glowed with an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with his speech, and when he spoke, it sounded like music played on stone instruments. Beside him stood strategic analyst Vexhan, smaller and more delicate, whose role was to provide tactical and logistical support. The Kalari delegation was headed by Fleet Admiral Vexera, a lean, quick-moving individual whose blue skin was marked with the geometric tattoos that indicated rank and achievement in Kalari society. Her 4 eyes moved independently, allowing her to track multiple targets simultaneously, and her hands ended in manipulator appendages that could interface directly with Kalari technology. Her second was Trade Coordinator Nimpol, whose role was to manage the economic aspects of Kalari military operations. As Sarah looked across the table at these representatives of 2 great civilizations, she realized that everyone in this room had been shaped by war. The Vorthan spoke in terms of honor and sacrifice, while the Kalari discussed tactical advantages and strategic objectives. But nobody was talking about what the war was actually costing them. Before we begin discussing terms for peace, Sarah said, her words being translated instantly into harmonious tones for the Vorthans and rapid clicks for the Kalari, I'd like to understand something. What are you both fighting for? The question seemed to surprise everyone. War Commander Thek Sol's glow brightened as he responded, "We fight because the Kalari attacked our border worlds without provocation 300 years ago. We fight to defend the honor of our fallen, and to ensure that such aggression is never rewarded." Fleet Admiral Ixera's eyes narrowed as she replied, "The Vorthans invaded our territory first, claiming resource rights that had been ours for millennia. We fight to protect our sovereignty and to prevent Vorthan expansion from consuming the entire galaxy." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I see. So you're fighting over territory and resources. What specific territory and resources are you fighting over right now?" The question hung in the air for a moment as both sides realized they couldn't give a clear answer. The original disputed territory had been fought over, lost, reclaimed, and fought over again so many times that nobody was even sure who had held it originally. The resources that had seemed so valuable 3 centuries ago had long since been exhausted or made irrelevant by technological advancement. "The principles matter more than the specifics," War Commander Thek Sol rumbled. "We cannot allow aggression to go unpunished." "Agreed." Fleet Admiral Zwaxera clicked rapidly. "We cannot show weakness to those who would dominate us." Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing economic data she had compiled during her journey to the station. "I've been analyzing the costs of this conflict, and I'd like to share some numbers with you." The display showed shipping routes, trade volumes, resource allocation, and economic output for both civilizations over the past 3 centuries. The picture it painted was sobering. Currently, both the Vorthan Empire and the Kalari Federation are spending approximately 60% of their total economic output on military operations, Sarah explained. That's not just direct military spending. That includes the opportunity cost of having your best minds focused on weapons development instead of civilian technology, the cost of maintaining military infrastructure in hundreds of systems, and the economic disruption caused by constant warfare. She highlighted specific data points as she continued. The Kalari Federation has 47 star systems under military lockdown, which means their civilian populations can't engage in normal economic activity. The Vorthan Empire has converted 32 entire worlds into weapons manufacturing centers, displacing civilian populations and destroying ecosystems that could have supported sustainable economic development. War Commander Thek Sol's glow dimmed slightly. These sacrifices are necessary for victory. But what does victory look like? Sarah asked. Let's say, hypothetically, that one of you completely destroys the other tomorrow. What would you win? Strategic analyst Vexhan answered for the Vorthans. We would gain security for our people and vindication for our fallen. Trade Coordinator Nimpol responded for the Kalari. We would eliminate a permanent threat to our expansion and prove the superiority of our way of life. Sarah nodded and updated her display to show projection models. Let's examine those outcomes. If the Vorthins won total victory tomorrow, you would inherit 47 devastated star systems with damaged infrastructure, hostile populations, and depleted resources. The cost of occupying and rebuilding Kalari space would be enormous, and you would face insurgencies for generations. Meanwhile, your own territory has been neglected for 3 centuries of warfare. Many of your core worlds are showing signs of ecological stress and economic stagnation. She turned to the Kalari delegation. If you achieved total victory, you would face the same challenges in reverse. 53 Vorthin worlds with completely different environmental requirements, a population that fundamentally doesn't think the way you do, and a technology base that's incompatible with your own systems. The integration costs alone would bankrupt your federation, assuming you could even manage it without triggering the complete collapse of Vorthin society. Fleet Admiral Sarah's 4 eyes focused on Sarah with interest. You speak of costs and benefits as if war were a business transaction. Isn't it? Sarah replied. You're both investing enormous resources in pursuit of specific outcomes. Any business that spent 60% of its income on a single project for 300 years without achieving its goals would be considered a failure. But let's talk about what you're not investing in. The display shifted to show technological development curves for both civilizations compared to neutral species who weren't engaged in major conflicts. The difference was stark. While you've been perfecting ways to kill each other, species like the Altarians have developed terraforming technology that can make any planet habitable in 50 years instead of 500. The Centauri have created fusion reactors so efficient that energy is essentially free. The humans have built trade networks that have increased prosperity for every participating species by an average of 400%. Sarah let that sink in before continuing. You've both made tremendous advances in military technology, but you've fallen behind in almost every civilian field. Your medical technology is centuries out of date. Your manufacturing processes are inefficient by modern standards. Your transportation networks are designed for moving weapons and soldiers, not goods and people. War Commander Thexol's harmonic voice carried a note of uncertainty. You suggest we abandon our sacred duty to our fallen. I suggest you honor them by building something better, Sarah replied. What would your fallen think if they knew their sacrifice had led to the flourishing of both your civilizations instead of their destruction? The room fell silent as both delegations processed this perspective. Sarah could see the wheels turning in their minds, calculating possibilities they had never considered. Finally, strategic analyst Vexhan spoke up. What exactly are you proposing, human? Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the room. I'm proposing that we run some numbers. I want to show you what peace would actually cost and what it would earn you. I think you'll find that peace is the most profitable investment either of your civilizations has ever had the opportunity to make. Sarah spent the next 3 days locked in her quarters aboard the station, working with the most advanced economic modeling systems the Galactic Council could provide. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours total, surviving on coffee and the kind of stubborn determination that had made humans famous across the galaxy for taking on impossible challenges. When she called for the next meeting, both delegations arrived with reinforcements. The Vorthins had brought resource analyst Kathrel, whose crystalline body showed the geometric patterns that indicated specialization in economic systems. The Kalari had added systems coordinator Velnex, whose neural implants allowed her to process vast amounts of data simultaneously. I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of what I call the peace dividend, Sarah began, activating a 3-dimensional holographic display that filled the center of the room. This model shows the economic impact of ending the war and transitioning both civilizations to a collaborative framework. The display showed both empires as they existed now, with red indicators marking military assets, yellow showing civilian infrastructure, and green representing economic potential. The amount of red was staggering, while the green was barely visible. Let's start with immediate savings, Sarah continued, highlighting sections of the model. If both civilizations agreed to a ceasefire today, you would immediately save the operational costs of active warfare. For the Vorthans, that's approximately 2.7 trillion standard credits per year. For the Kalari, it's 3.1 trillion standard credits annually. War Commander Thexol's harmonics carried skepticism. These savings would be meaningless if we left ourselves vulnerable to attack. Which is why this model includes comprehensive security arrangements, Sarah replied. Instead of maintaining separate military forces designed to destroy each other, you would contribute to a joint peacekeeping force designed to protect both civilizations from external threats. She manipulated the display to show a new configuration. The combined military strength of both civilizations would actually be greater than the sum of your individual forces, because you'd eliminate the redundancy and waste that comes from parallel development of similar technologies. Fleet Admiral Sarah's 4 eyes tracked the changing displays with interest. Show us the security specifications. Sarah expanded that section of the model, revealing a detailed analysis of threat assessment and defensive capabilities. Your combined fleet would consist of Vorthan engineering paired with Kalari tactical systems. Vorthan ships are incredibly durable, but relatively slow. Kalari ships are fast and maneuverable, but more fragile. Together, you could build vessels that have both strengths and neither weakness. Strategic analyst Vexhan studied the technical specifications. This assumes a level of technological integration that has never been attempted between our species. Which brings us to the really interesting numbers, Sarah said with a smile. Let's talk about technology transfer and joint development. The display shifted to show research and development timelines. What it revealed was extraordinary. The Vorthans have made incredible advances in materials science, energy storage, and structural engineering, Sarah explained. Your quantum crystal technology could revolutionize everything from computer processing to interstellar communication. But you've been using it primarily to build better armor and weapons. She highlighted the Kalari developments. The Kalari have achieved breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and quantum mechanics that are literally centuries ahead of anyone else in the galaxy. Your distributed processing networks could solve computational problems that current technology can't even attempt. Resource analyst K. Thrall's geometric patterns shifted to display curiosity. You propose sharing our most advanced technologies with our enemies? I propose sharing them with your future partners, Sarah corrected. Look at what happens when we combine these technologies for civilian purposes. The model transformed to show integrated systems. Vorthan quantum crystals enhanced by Kalari AI created processing systems of unprecedented power. Kalari biotechnology, supported by Vorthan materials science, could literally grow cities that would last for millennia. The potential applications were endless. The economic value of these integrated technologies would dwarf anything either civilization could achieve separately, Sarah continued. Conservative estimates suggest that licensing these technologies to other species would generate revenues of 50 trillion standard credits annually within 50 years. Systems Coordinator Velnex's implants hummed as she processed the data. These projections assume successful integration and market adoption. What about implementation challenges? Sarah was ready for that question. I've identified 3 major phases for the transition to peace. Phase 1 is immediate ceasefire and establishment of joint oversight committees. Phase 2 is technology sharing and joint development programs. Phase 3 is full economic integration and cooperative expansion. She broke down each phase in detail, showing timelines, milestones, and potential obstacles. Phase 1 would take approximately 2 years and would focus on building trust through small-scale cooperation. Joint patrols and neutral systems, shared research facilities for non-sensitive technologies, and cultural exchange programs to help both species understand each other better. Trade Coordinator Nimpole clicked a question about economic risks during the transition period. Excellent point, Sarah acknowledged. There would be short-term costs as both civilizations restructure their economies. Military contractors would need to retool for civilian production. Soldiers would need retraining for civilian careers, and entire worlds would need to transition from weapons manufacturing to general industry. I estimate the transition costs at approximately 8 trillion standard credits for each civilization over 10 years. War Commander Thexol's glow brightened with what humans had learned to recognize as Vorthan anger. You ask us to spend nearly as much to make peace as we spend to wage war. No, Sarah replied calmly. I'm asking you to invest in your future instead of throwing money into a furnace. Let me show you the return on that investment. The display showed long-term projections that left everyone in the room speechless. Within 20 years, both civilizations would have completely recovered their transition costs. Within 50 years, they would be generating more wealth than they had ever imagined possible. Within a century, the Vorthan-Kalari alliance would be the dominant economic force in the galaxy. These numbers assume successful cooperation. Fleet Admiral Zoixera noted. What if our species are too different to work together effectively? Sarah had anticipated this concern and had prepared what she considered her strongest argument. Let me tell you about the human experience with species integration. She updated the display to show Earth's history and humanity's expansion into the galaxy. 300 years ago, humans were confined to a single star system and were considered a minor, aggressive species by most of the galaxy. We had no significant technology, no notable resources, and no particular advantages except one thing. We were very good at finding ways to work with other species. The display showed the growth of human trade networks, alliance structures, and collaborative projects. Humans didn't become successful by conquering other species. We became successful by making other species more successful. Every species that partners with humanity sees measurable improvements in economic performance, technological development, and quality of life. Strategic analyst Vexhan studied the human expansion data. Your species appears to have a natural aptitude for cooperation. We do not. That's not true, Sarah replied. Both Vorthans and Kalari have complex social structures that require extensive cooperation within your own species. The challenge isn't cooperation itself. It's extending that cooperation across species boundaries. She showed detailed analysis of both civilizations' internal structures. Vorthan society is built on collective harmony and shared purpose. Your engineering projects require coordination between millions of individuals working toward common goals. Kalari society emphasizes individual excellence within cooperative frameworks. Your technological achievements depend on countless specialists sharing knowledge and resources. Trade Coordinator Nimpole clicked a series of rapid questions about practical implementation challenges. You're right to be concerned about practical details, Sarah acknowledged. Let me show you how this would work in practice, starting with a specific example. The display focused on a single star system in the current war zone. The Kethvar system is currently contested territory. Both sides have military bases there, and it's been the site of 17 major battles in the past 50 years. Under the current conflict, this system generates no economic value and consumes enormous resources. She showed the system's potential under peaceful development. Kethvar has 3 habitable worlds, abundant mineral resources, and a strategic location on major trade routes. Under cooperative development, it could become a major economic hub generating billions of credits annually while providing homes for millions of civilians from both species. The model showed detailed plans for mixed Vorthan Kalari colonies, integrated infrastructure, and cooperative resource extraction. The key is designing systems that play to each species' strengths. Vorthans excel at large-scale construction and long-term planning. Kalari excel at optimization and adaptive management. Together, you could build something that neither species could create alone. Resource analyst Kay Thrall's patterns shifted to indicate deep thought. This requires a level of trust that does not currently exist between our species. Which is why we start small, Sarah replied. I'm not suggesting you merge your civilizations overnight. I'm suggesting you begin with limited pilot projects that demonstrate the potential benefits while minimizing the risks. She outlined a specific proposal for the first phase of cooperation. Start with joint scientific research stations in neutral territory. Pick problems that affect both species but aren't strategically sensitive. Asteroid mining technology, agricultural optimization, medical research. Build success gradually. War Commander Thexol was quiet for a long moment before speaking. You present compelling numbers, human, but numbers cannot capture the weight of honor, tradition, and 3 centuries of sacrifice. Sarah turned to face him directly. With respect, Commander, I think you're wrong. Honor and tradition are about building something worthy of the sacrifices that came before. Your fallen didn't die so that future generations could continue dying. They died so that their people could thrive and prosper. She gestured to the holographic display showing the potential future. This is what they died for. Not victory over the Kalari, but victory over poverty, ignorance, and limitation. Not conquest of enemy territory, but conquest of the unknown frontiers beyond the galaxy. Not the destruction of your enemies, but the creation of something so magnificent that the very concept of enemies becomes obsolete. Fleet Admiral Vixera's 4 eyes focused intently on Sarah. You speak as if this transformation is inevitable. Not inevitable, Sarah corrected, but possible. And possibility is the most valuable thing in the universe. You both spent 3 centuries proving what doesn't work. I'm offering you the chance to discover what does. The room fell silent as both delegations absorbed the implications of what they had seen. Sarah could see the internal debates playing out in their postures, their expressions, and the subtle changes in their biosignatures that her human intuition had learned to read. Finally, Systems Coordinator Velnex spoke up. What guarantees can you offer that the Vorthans would honor agreements made in this framework? War Commander Thexol's harmonics carried offended pride. Vorthans do not break their word once given. Exactly, Sarah said, seizing the opening. And Kalari don't make agreements without ensuring they're mutually beneficial. You both have exactly the cultural values needed to make this work. You just need to channel them in a new direction. She stood up and looked around the room at the representatives of 2 great civilizations. I'm going to ask you to do something that requires courage equal to anything your warriors have ever shown in battle. I'm asking you to imagine a future worth building, and then to build it. The breakthrough came on the 7th day of negotiations, but not in the way Sarah had expected. She was reviewing economic projections in her quarters when her communications system chimed with an urgent message from the station's monitoring systems. A massive fleet was approaching from Kalari space, while long-range sensors detected Vorthan reinforcements moving toward the neutral zone. Sarah rushed to the command center, where she found both delegations in heated discussion with their respective military commands. The peaceful atmosphere of the past week had evaporated, replaced by the familiar tension of impending conflict. What's happening? Sarah demanded. War Commander Thexol's crystalline form pulsed with angry light. Kalari raiders have attacked a Vorthan supply convoy in the Nexus sector. 7 ships destroyed, 2,000 lives lost. Fleet Admiral Vixer's 4 eyes blazed with fury. Vorthan forces launched a surprise assault on our research station at Velterra Prime. The facility has been completely destroyed, along with 30 years of scientific work. Sarah felt her heart sink. After a week of progress, both sides were falling back into the patterns that had sustained their conflict for 3 centuries. Who gave the orders for these attacks? Both commanders looked uncomfortable. Strategic analyst Vexhan answered first. The attacks were launched by autonomous battle groups operating under standing war protocols. They were not ordered by anyone present at these negotiations. Trade Coordinator Nimpoles clicking translated to agreement. Our field commanders are not aware of the current peace talks. The information has been classified to prevent premature disclosure. Sarah realized the horrible irony of the situation. Both civilizations had built such efficient war machines that they continued operating even when their leaders were trying to make peace. The attacks weren't the result of deliberate sabotage or bad faith, but simply the momentum of 300 years of institutionalized conflict. "This is exactly why we need to move quickly," Sarah said, her mind racing through possibilities. "Your own military structures are working against you. Every day we delay gives more opportunities for accidental escalation." War Commander Thexol's harmonics carried deep frustration. "How can we make peace when war continues around us? My people demand response to Kalari aggression. And my people demand retaliation for Vorthan attacks," Fleet Admiral Zoexera added. "The political pressure is becoming unbearable." Sarah looked around the command center, watching the tactical displays that showed both fleets approaching the neutral zone. An idea began forming in her mind, risky and unprecedented, but potentially brilliant. "What if we turn this crisis into an opportunity?" she said suddenly. Both delegations stared at her, as if she had lost her mind. "Here's what I'm thinking," Sarah continued, her voice gaining confidence. "Right now, you both have fleets moving toward a confrontation that neither of you actually wants. Instead of fighting each other, what if they fought together?" Strategic analyst Vex Han's patterns shifted to display confusion. Fight together against whom? Sarah activated the holographic display and highlighted a region of space beyond both empires. "Pirates. The Broken Chain Syndicate has been raiding shipping throughout this entire sector for decades, taking advantage of the chaos caused by your war to build a substantial criminal empire." She showed intelligence reports on pirate activities stolen from dozens of different sources. "While you've been fighting each other, the Broken Chain has grown into a major threat. They have over 300 ships, control 17 asteroid bases, and have been responsible for thousands of civilian deaths and the theft of resources worth hundreds of billions of credits." Trade Coordinator Nimpol's rapid clicking indicated interest. "You propose a joint military operation?" "I propose a demonstration," Sarah replied. "Let both fleets rendezvous here at the station, then launch a coordinated strike against the Broken Chain's main stronghold. Show your people and the galaxy what Vorthan and Kalari forces can accomplish when they work together instead of against each other." War Commander Thexol's glow intensified as he considered the proposal. "Joint operations between our species have never been attempted. The tactical challenges would be enormous." "Which is exactly why success would be so impressive," Sarah countered. "Imagine the impact on public opinion in both civilizations when they see their forces working together to protect innocent civilians instead of killing each other." Fleet Admiral Zoexera studied the pirate intelligence data. "The Broken Chain stronghold is heavily fortified. They have planetary defense systems and a sizable fleet of their own." "Perfect," Sarah said with a grin that both species had learned to associate with human cunning. "It's a genuine challenge that will require the best of both your military traditions. Vorthan engineering and durability combined with Kalari speed and tactical flexibility." She updated the display to show a preliminary battle plan. Vorthan heavy cruisers could provide the main assault force, capable of absorbing defensive fire while delivering devastating attacks. Kalari fast attack ships could perform reconnaissance, disable key systems, and exploit weaknesses in the pirate defenses. Strategic analyst Vex Han and systems coordinator Velnex began analyzing the tactical scenarios, their natural professional instincts overriding political considerations. Within minutes, they were engaged in detailed discussions about ship configurations, attack vectors, and coordination protocols. "This could actually work," Vex Han admitted grudgingly. "The synergies are substantial," Velnex agreed. "Our tactical systems could direct Vorthan firepower with unprecedented precision." War Commander Thexol watched his analyst's enthusiasm with visible concern. "You move too quickly from discussion to implementation. What assurances do we have that this is not a trap?" Sarah had anticipated this concern. Full transparency. Both fleets maintain their current command structures. All communications are monitored by neutral observers from the Galactic Council. And, most importantly, success or failure depends on genuine cooperation, which means both sides have strong incentives to make it work. Fleet Admiral Xera's Four Eyes tracked the developing tactical plans. What about the economic benefits you mentioned earlier? How does this military operation relate to your peace dividend calculations? Sarah smiled and updated the display once again. Excellent question. The broken chain has been disrupting trade throughout this region for decades. Eliminating them would reopen shipping routes worth approximately 500 billion credits annually in trade volume. She showed detailed economic projections. Both the Vorthan Empire and Kalari Federation would benefit from increased trade, but more importantly, success in this operation would demonstrate the profit potential of cooperation. Other species would take notice and want to partner with a new Vorthan-Kalari alliance. Trade Coordinator Nimpol's clicking intensified with excitement. Shared economic benefits from the first day of cooperation. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. And unlike the theoretical projections I showed you earlier, these would be immediate, measurable results that both your civilian populations and political leadership could see and appreciate. Resource analyst Keith Rao had been quietly processing economic data throughout the discussion. Now he spoke up with careful precision. The operational costs of a joint military campaign would be substantial. Fuel, ammunition, coordination systems, potential casualties. All significantly less than the cost of fighting each other, Sarah replied. And, unlike your current military spending, this operation would generate a positive return on investment through increased trade and enhanced reputation. War Commander Thexol was quiet for a long moment, his internal light pulsing in the rhythm that Vorthans used for deep contemplation. Finally, he spoke. This proposal has merit, but it requires approval from the War Council. I cannot commit Vorthan forces to joint operations without explicit authorization. Fleet Admiral ZYXera nodded agreement. I face the same constraints. The Federation Council must approve any cooperation with Vorthan forces. Sarah had expected this response and was ready with a solution. What if we presented this as a humanitarian mission rather than a military alliance? Both your civilizations have strong traditions of protecting innocent civilians. The broken chain has been attacking civilian shipping for decades without regard for species or political affiliation. She showed reports of pirate raids on civilian targets from dozens of different species. This isn't about Vorthan-Kalari cooperation. It's about galactic security. You would be working together to protect innocent lives and restore legitimate commerce to a region that has been under criminal control for too long. Strategic analyst Vexhan's patterns brightened with understanding. A peacekeeping mission with economic benefits as a secondary consideration. Precisely, Sarah confirmed. And if that peacekeeping mission happens to demonstrate the advantages of cooperation between your species, well, that's just an unexpected bonus. Fleet Admiral Vexer's expression shifted to what humans had learned to recognize as Kalari amusement. You think like a politician, human. I think like an economist, Sarah corrected. I find solutions that benefit everyone involved. In this case, you get to fulfill your military honor by protecting civilians. You get immediate economic returns through reopened trade routes, and you get to test cooperative frameworks without making permanent commitments. War Commander Thexol's harmonics carried a note of grudging respect. You have thought through the implications carefully. But what happens after this mission succeeds or fails? If it fails, Sarah said honestly, you've learned valuable lessons about the challenges of cooperation, and you can return to your previous conflict with better understanding of your opponent's capabilities. She paused for dramatic effect before continuing. If it succeeds, you'll have proven that cooperation generates better results than conflict, and you'll have a model for future joint operations that benefit both civilizations. Trade Coordinator Nimpol clicked a series of questions about implementation timelines and logistics. Good points, Sarah acknowledged. I propose a 48-hour timeline for governmental approval, followed by a coordinated rendezvous of both fleets at this station within 1 week. The operation itself should take no more than 72 hours, after which both fleets can return to their respective territories with concrete evidence of what cooperation can accomplish. Systems Coordinator Velnex was already calculating technical requirements. Joint operations will require compatible communication systems, shared tactical databases, and coordinated command protocols, all of which are solvable technical problems, Sarah replied. And solving them will create infrastructure for future cooperation, whether military or civilian. The room fell silent as both delegations contemplated the proposal. Sarah could see the internal calculations playing out in their expressions and body language. This wasn't just a military operation they were considering, but a fundamental shift in how their civilizations related to each other. Finally, War Commander Thexol spoke with formal precision. I will present this proposal to the War Council as a humanitarian mission with strategic benefits. I cannot guarantee approval, but I believe the concept has merit. Fleet Admiral ZYXR nodded in agreement. I will recommend approval to the Federation Council on similar grounds. The economic benefits alone justify the risks involved. Sarah felt a surge of triumph, but kept her expression neutral. Excellent. I'll prepare detailed briefing materials for both councils, including economic projections, tactical analysis, and risk assessment. I'll also contact the Galactic Council to arrange neutral observers for the operation. As both delegations prepared to contact their respective governments, Sarah allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. She hadn't ended the war yet, but she had created the possibility for something unprecedented, two enemies working together toward a common goal that benefited everyone involved. The real test would come in the next week, when theory would meet reality in the vacuum of space above a pirate stronghold. Success would open doors to possibilities that neither civilization had ever imagined. Failure would set back the cause of peace by generations. But as Sarah looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching fleets, she felt confident that she had found the right approach. She was about to prove that even the most ancient enemies could find common ground when the benefits of cooperation became clear enough. The joint fleet assembled at the neutral station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 47 Vorthan vessels, their crystalline hulls gleaming with inner light, held formation alongside 39 Kalari ships that moved through space like schools of metal fish. The contrast was striking. Massive, geometric Vorthan dreadnoughts beside sleek, organic Kalari cruisers that seemed to flow rather than fly. Sarah stood on the bridge of the command vessel, a modified Galactic Council ship equipped with translation and coordination systems capable of managing the complex real-time communication required for joint operations. Around her, officers from both species worked at integrated stations, their centuries of mutual hostility temporarily set aside in favor of professional military cooperation. The approval from both governments had come through exactly as Sarah had predicted. The Vorthan War Council had endorsed the mission as a demonstration of military superiority and honor. The Kalari Federation Council had approved it as a profitable venture with acceptable risks. Neither government had officially acknowledged the precedent they were setting for future cooperation, but Sarah was confident that success would make such acknowledgement inevitable. Final systems check complete, announced Tactical Coordinator Zethval, a young Kalari officer whose 4 eyes tracked multiple displays simultaneously. All vessels report ready for hyperspace transition. Vorthan Fleet confirms operational readiness, added Force Engineer Kelvan, whose crystalline form pulsed with the harmonic frequencies that indicated focused concentration. Quantum crystals are fully charged, and defensive matrices are stable. Sarah nodded to Fleet Admiral Zexura, who had been designated Joint Mission Commander by mutual agreement between both fleets. It was a significant gesture of trust, considering that no Kalari had ever commanded Vorthan forces, even in a cooperative framework. All vessels, initiate hyperspace transition on my mark, Zexura announced, her words being translated instantly into the harmonic tones the Vorthans used for fleet coordination. Mark, Space twisted around the joint fleet as 86 vessels disappeared into hyperspace simultaneously, bound for the Broken Chain stronghold in the Kasich system. The journey would take 6 hours, providing time for final tactical preparations and last-minute adjustments to the operational plan. Sarah used the time to review everything she knew about their target. The Broken Chain had been operating from Kasich Prime for over 20 years, turning a barren world into a fortress bristling with defensive systems. Intelligence reports indicated a fleet of over 200 vessels of various classes, from fast raiders to captured military cruisers. The pirates had even constructed orbital weapon platforms using stolen technology from both Vorthin and Kalari sources. What made the stronghold truly dangerous wasn't just its firepower, but its leadership. The Broken Chain was commanded by a former Kalari admiral named HFY, who had been court-martialed for war crimes 15 years earlier and had built his criminal empire using the tactical knowledge gained from decades of legitimate military service. He understood both Vorthin and Kalari military doctrine, which meant conventional attacks had consistently failed. Tactical briefing in 30 minutes, Sarah announced over the ship's communication system. All senior officers to the main conference room. The briefing room filled with an unprecedented gathering of military minds. Vorthin strategists whose crystalline forms glowed with analytical intensity sat alongside Kalari tactical specialists whose neural implants processed data streams faster than biological minds could follow. Despite their vastly different appearances and methodologies, Sarah could see the mutual respect growing between professional warriors who recognized excellence regardless of species. Our intelligence indicates that HFY is expecting a conventional assault, Sarah began, activating the holographic display that showed the Kasich system in detail. His defensive preparations are designed to counter either Vorthin or Kalari tactics, but not both simultaneously. Strategic analyst Vexhan studied the enemy positions. Their orbital platforms are positioned to create overlapping fields of fire against large formations, typical anti-Vorthin deployment. Systems coordinator Velnex highlighted the mobile defense squadrons, but their patrol routes are designed to intercept fast attack groups before they can reach critical targets, clearly anti-Kalari doctrine. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. HFY is fighting the last war, preparing for enemies who attack separately instead of together. Our advantage is that we can do something he's never had to defend against. Fleet Admiral Xera activated the tactical projection system, showing the combined fleet's approach vectors. Vorthin heavy units will draw fire from the orbital platforms, while Kalari fast attack groups exploit the gaps in their mobile coverage. War Commander Thexol's harmonics carried approval. Our battle cruisers can absorb tremendous punishment while delivering precise strikes against fixed positions. And our strike craft can disable key systems before the enemy can coordinate an effective response, added Strike Leader Pixtan, a Kalari pilot whose cybernetic enhancements allowed direct interface with her fighters' control systems. Sarah watched the tactical discussion with satisfaction. Both sides were contributing their strengths while acknowledging their limitations, creating a battle plan that was genuinely superior to anything either species could have developed alone. There's one more element to consider, Sarah said, highlighting a section of the intelligence data that showed civilian shipping in the area. The Broken Chain is holding approximately 30 civilian vessels, and their crews as hostages. Rescue operations will be a priority equal to the destruction of military targets. This announcement created a moment of tension between the two military philosophies. Vorthin doctrine emphasized the protection of innocents as a sacred duty, while Kalari doctrine prioritized mission efficiency and acceptable losses. Rescue operations will complicate the tactical situation significantly, Fleet Admiral Xera noted carefully. They will also demonstrate the humanitarian nature of this mission, War Commander Thexol replied, his glow brightening with conviction. We are not pirates seeking profit, but defenders of civilization. Sarah seized the opportunity to reinforce the cooperation she was seeing. This is exactly why this mission required both civilizations working together. Vorthan honor ensures we protect the innocent, while Kalari efficiency ensures we complete the mission successfully. The final approach to Kasich system went exactly according to plan. Long-range sensors detected the joint fleet at the edge of the system, and pirate communications intercepts showed confusion and disagreement about how to respond. QIXNOR had apparently never considered the possibility of facing a combined Vorthan Kalari force. Enemy fleet is launching, reported Tactical Coordinators FL, reading 173 vessels of various classes, moving to intercept our formation. Orbital platforms are powering up their primary weapons, added Force Engineer Kelvan. Quantum resonance indicates they're charging high-energy particle beams. Fleet Admiral Voyaxera's 4 eyes tracked the developing tactical situation. All vessels implement attack pattern harmony. Vorthan units advance to engagement range. Kalari units maintain escort positions until orbital defenses are neutralized. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. Vorthan dreadnoughts absorbed the full fury of the orbital platforms, while their quantum crystal weapons systematically disabled the defensive installations. Kalari fast attack ships darted between enemy formations, their precision strikes crippling pirate vessels before they could coordinate effective resistance. But the most remarkable aspect of the engagement wasn't the tactical brilliance or technological superiority of the joint fleet. It was the seamless coordination between two species who had never worked together before. Vorthan fire control systems, guided by Kalari targeting data, achieved accuracy levels that neither species could match alone. Kalari fighters protected by Vorthan defensive screens could operate in environments that would normally be suicidal. Within 4 hours, the broken chain fleet was destroyed or scattered, the orbital platforms were disabled, and rescue teams were recovering civilian hostages from the pirate stronghold. The operation succeeded beyond even Sarah's optimistic projections, with minimal casualties among the joint fleet and complete mission success. As the combined forces regrouped in orbit around Kasich Prime, Sarah watched the communication channels fill with congratulations and expressions of mutual respect between Vorthan and Kalari officers. Professional soldiers recognized excellence regardless of species, and both sides had seen their former enemies demonstrate courage, skill, and honor in combat. Preliminary damage assessment shows total pirate losses, reported Systems Coordinator Velnex. Their fleet has been eliminated, orbital defenses destroyed, and ground installations captured. Civilian rescue operations successful, added Rescue Coordinator Jenthma, a Vorthan officer whose harmonics carried deep satisfaction. All hostages recovered alive, medical treatment in progress for those requiring assistance. Fleet Admiral Zoyaxera turned to address the entire command staff. This operation demonstrated capabilities that neither of our civilizations possesses alone. The tactical advantages of cooperation are now proven beyond doubt. War Commander Thexol's glow pulsed with the rhythm that indicated formal proclamation. The honor of both our peoples has been upheld through joint action in defense of innocence. This is a precedent worthy of preservation. Sarah stepped forward, sensing the moment was right for her final argument. The success of this mission proves everything I've been trying to tell you about the profitability of peace. Look at what you accomplished in 4 hours of cooperation compared to 3 centuries of conflict. She activated a holographic display showing the economic benefits already accruing from mission. Trade routes through this sector are already reopening. Shipping companies are announcing new routes that will generate billions in revenue. Insurance rates for civilian vessels are dropping across the entire region. Strategic analyst Vexhan studied the economic data. These benefits exceed our projections for the operation. Because cooperation creates value that conflict can only destroy, Sarah replied. And this is just the beginning. Imagine what both civilizations could accomplish with permanent alliance instead of temporary cooperation. Trade Coordinator Nimpol's rapid clicking indicated excitement. Joint military capabilities would deter pirates and raiders throughout the galaxy. Shipping companies would pay premium rates for routes protected by combined Vorthan-Kalari patrols. Joint research initiatives could solve problems that have challenged both species for generations, added Systems Coordinator Velnex. The integration possibilities we demonstrated today could revolutionize everything from ship design to planetary development. Sarah watched as the implications sank in among both delegations. They had just experienced something unprecedented, a military victory that generated profit, enhanced reputation, and demonstrated technological capabilities that neither species possessed alone. The question now, Sarah said quietly, is whether this was a unique event or the first step toward a new relationship between your civilizations. Fleet Admiral Vixra and War Commander Thexol exchanged what might have been the first genuinely respectful look between their species in 3 centuries. I believe, War Commander Thexol said slowly, that this mission has demonstrated possibilities that honor requires us to explore. The strategic advantages of cooperation are too significant to ignore. Sarah smiled, knowing that she had finally achieved what she set out to do, not through grand speeches or moral arguments, but by proving that peace was simply more profitable than war. The Vorthan-Kalari conflict wasn't over yet, but it had fundamentally changed. Instead of fighting each other, both civilizations had discovered something better to fight for. A future where cooperation replaced conflict and prosperity replaced destruction. As the joint fleet prepared to return to the neutral station for formal treaty negotiations, Sarah reflected on the human approach to galactic diplomacy. Where others saw insurmountable differences, humans saw opportunities for mutual benefit. Where others accepted eternal conflict, humans insisted on finding profitable alternatives. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the best warriors were those who knew when to stop fighting and start building something better.